Today we're going to go and start assembling a Vicehead Resinworks 55 Kenworth flat dump. As I've mentioned in other videos, the general assembly of these models is all the same. It will vary a little bit with the cabs, but you know, the flatbed's the flatbed, the dump truck's the dump truck. They all work in the same manner here. So we're going to first go through the parts. We have our rear wheels and a cab, rear wheels and a cab. They're all interchangeable. These wheels can go in any rear wheel position. These cabs can go on any chassis. So they're all fully interchangeable there. No worries. Same thing with the fuel tanks. They're also interchangeable. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. That one just fit there better, so that's where it's at. They are right and left specific. One is slightly larger. That would go on the driver's side, but it is minimal. It is very minimal difference there. So if you can't tell, and half the time I can't tell, no one else is going to tell if you put it on the wrong side. They will fit either way. These two things here are your exhaust stacks. They will come out the passenger side and up, as is typical for this era. Once we get here we have a chassis, and here we have another chassis. Now these chassis are interchangeable. You cannot mess this up by putting the wrong chassis and the wrong cabs and the wrong bodies on. They are universal, we'll call it. So these chassis are a little different than the box truck chassis though, as they have holes at the back of the frame. The holes match up with pins in your bodies. So both of these bodies are set up to be able to be a posable dump. Before you get into painting or anything, you may want to notch these holes out. Due to the size of everything, you usually can't force it on there due to clearances and tolerances. So if you just notch the holes out for however you wish to put the body on, however it's going to hold in best for you, you can notch those holes out, and then the pins on the bottom of the body will sit into the holes. I didn't do that because ideally going from the top works well. However, if you're going to go ahead and assemble it as a body down model, where it doesn't need to be posed midway through dumping its load, then it's easier actually to cut the nubs off of the bottom of the body to fit over the chassis. So a couple little tips for you on those. As we go through, we have a bumper in the middle here and another bumper over here if I didn't talk about them already, and these mirrors that I usually wind up flinging everywhere. So you got some mirrors there. We do have right here and right up here are dump cylinders. They are able to be cut to fit for however you wish to pose the body. So that is a neat little feature we have going on. And here is a tailgate for the dump body. This is the dump body itself. This piece here is the tailgate. And I don't know if you can even see it from that angle, but right here at the edge there's little tiny notches and little tiny nubs on the tailgate. So they'll actually sit together. So when you get this all up into place, last thing you do is you put that tailgate on right there and then glue it in place, and it'll actually hang how it's supposed to. Back here's the flatbed dump. Flatbed body that dumps, however you want to put it. So, and the cylinders are interchangeable again. You can put either on either model, build it however you want. And that's the fun thing about these kits, is we're making them as flexible and as customizable as possible. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove all these supports that attach to the painted surfaces on the body in preparation for paint. So I'm going to remove them off the cab here. I'm going to remove, actually this one doesn't have much. There's probably the ones under here. And we're going to get a base coat of paint on this. So there's some on the front of this particular cab that might get in the way a little bit, but we're going to get those removed, and then we're going to paint the chassis stuff black. We're going to paint the wheels, well, the tires black. The wheels will paint while they're still on the supports. We have our hydraulic cylinders. We can paint half of that. Makes it a little bit easier to go back the other way and paint it on the other side if you want. And we're definitely going to paint our cabs. And one little tip is you can take your track nippers and you can cut these rafts here at the bottom, and they usually crack pretty well, so if you put the nippers like right in here and squeeze down, it'll crack the whole way out to its next little gap there between the pieces. So you can separate out different pieces for different colors as you see fit. So we're going to do the prep and paint off camera, and then we'll come back and assemble it for you. Okay, here's the Vicehead Resinworks 55 Kenworth. And this is the flatbed dump truck. It looks very similar to the other ones I just built for the propane and fuel truck, and that's because they're all going to be part of the same fictitious trucking company. My steel didn't turn out well in the dump bed, but it is what it is. They will have two of these parts. These are hydraulic lift cylinders, as we discussed in the earlier portion of this video. But both of these are going to be built in the down position. Oh, actually, I might have to build one up for you, or just give you an idea. But I'm going to try to build them in the down position and see how that goes. So we're going to start with the flatbed here. And we're going to set dump truck parts aside. Alright, so we have those tiny little nubs, and we have those, this is the wrong frame, there we go, I got my frames mixed up, those tiny little holes. So the nubs go in the holes. You're most likely not gonna do that without damaging something. So what I like to do is I will cut out the top of those holes if I'm building it positioned, or if I'm building it in a setup where it's gonna be in the down position. I'll go ahead and just cut these nubs off of the body there. You can usually get away with cutting one off the body without much issue. And as you can see, the other one, hopefully as you can see, will help properly locate your chassis still. So at this point, I'm going to make sure I'm lined up across those frame rails. Put this down, put a drop of glue on it. But this particular model actually is going to get something a little special. So I have a wheel there that is damaged. So I'm not going to show you the full assembly of these on here, but I have special wheels. There's 6 individual wheels with separate hubs. These are actually for the hardcore mode version of this that will be released shortly as soon as I work out all the other little details. So we're going to put these wheels on here, and I'm going to do that off camera for you, but I just wanted to kind of show you them and give you an idea why it's going to be different. Okay, I'm going to put 2 normal wheels on here. One because I did not, for some reason, print enough wheels. And 2, because I do want to show you how these go on. So, you have your little axle pieces there. That's right about there, and there is where I put drops of glue. So I'm going to put a drop of glue, I'm going to hold it in place, let it dry. Tiniest drop. Kind of get it in place, line it up at the center. There is some play in these, and that's intentional. The suspension would move in all reality. So if you want to build this in place, you can. If you have a slightly harsh angle and you want to build it in place, that's 100% an option. And you have a little bit of adjustment on the rear wheels to get that suspension to look good where you're putting it. Unfortunately, if you're just building it on the bench and planning on putting it somewhere flat, you gotta be a little careful with the alignment. And there we go, they're attached. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and toss the body on, like I said before. And hopefully I don't destroy these wheels in this process. There we go. Make sure your chassis is fairly straight. And if you wanted to pose it, you could pose it. I'm not posing this one. Just going to tack it in with a drop of glue. If I can get the glue to actually touch the part I'm trying to glue. There we go. Then you have the chance to put your body on, but we're going to work on fuel tanks first. I'm going to go the same route as the last ones. Put a dab of glue there and there. Take your fuel tank. And put it in place. If you want to do two, you can do the other one. But we're going to toss the body on real quick. Okay, as I was off camera, I decided to put the mirrors on. The driver's side got really busted up because I pushed way too hard, but I decided to put the mirrors on. So, yeah, that kind of just is what it is with the mirrors. It's going to be what it's going to be. I'm not good at those, but they do exist. You can also see the... If I could hold this in a decent manner. There we go. Kind of see how cool those wheels look. My paint job's not the best on them, but as far as a assembly test, I'm very happy with that. And the rear one's kind of press fit almost with a layer of paint on there, which is nice. So they go together fairly easy for what they are, to be honest with you. Last thing we have is this stack, which we're going to try to do here without busting off some mirrors. If you recall from our other videos, it's very simple. Just put a little dab of glue in the right spot and hold it there. So I like a little glue right down there. We'll carefully rotate it around. Put that in place-ish. If it wants to go. Right about there. Oh, can't hold still. This one's going to fit just a hair off. Put one more dab of glue on her. There we go. And we're going to have a bumper on this one. I think since it's got the fancy wheels on one side, we're going to at least do the chrome bumper. So I'm going to put this down for a moment And we're going to take our chrome bumper here. Remember, there's the supports at the end, the bigger, heavier ones. Simply take this here and nip, nip, and the rest of them should peel off fairly easily. There we go. And in the bumper positioning, we're going to keep with the same setup as we've been doing, which is going to go ahead and put the bumper in the upward position for this. Let's put a couple dabs of glue on it. Might have been way too much, which is common with me. And let that dry. There we go, we have a bumper. Now if you wanted to, you could have painted the bottom of that fuel tank and done the bottom of the car, or truck, a little better with paint, but I don't expect them to be seen pretty heavily. And I'm not taking any real super good pictures of these at this time, so my bumper has now removed itself. There we go. Back on. So it's a completed flatbed truck right there. That would look really good with a bumper pull trailer, actually. Do something like that. I actually did forget something. Flatbed trucks do have ICC bars, and I don't think I painted one. Maybe I did. Or maybe it's just the box trucks. Either way, if you want, you could add an ICC bar back here and put hitch on it. I might even make that an option on these kits. But for now, that one's sticking to my finger. Okay, that one's done. I'm setting that aside. Now we have a dump truck to do. So, here is a dump truck. I put the mirrors on, off camera, just so you're aware. And we do need a stack, which we have. We have our lift cylinder and looks like a bumper still. I think we're going to go with a red bumper on this one. Maybe a chrome. Yeah, I got a chrome bumper left over here. So we'll go with the chrome bumper. Again, same method to free the bumpers from the supports. That's an easy one. And then put a little nail under there, rock it right off. And yes, I've combined multiple kits together to get the parts out of failed test prints. So again, now these have the little nubs there and the little holes in the frame, if you can see those. So we're going to go ahead and notch those little holes in the frame for this one, and we are going to pose it in a vertical manner. No, that didn't work. That didn't work either. I was a little too overzealous with that, so wound up snipping off too much and took out the notch. That's actually better to do with like a Dremel tool, but I was trying to do it here and I am not that accurate. So we're going to put our wheels on first on this one, then we're going to build it in an up position because unfortunately the swamp cooler would actually not clear the dump body. And I have adjusted the files So the ones that are going to be for sale are not going to have a swamp cooler on the dump body cabs. So when you're building this, the cabs will not interchange on this particular one, but they will be very clearly different due to the high big swamp cooler on the top. So got our wheels on, same thing as I do with the other ones. If you didn't see, just put a little drop of glue, put the wheel down, get it as centered as you can, because there is some adjustment there if you want to build in place, make it look like the suspension's moving, and set it straight and let it dry. Once it's dried enough to be on there, we can go ahead and put another drop on and do the last one, get it centered. There we go. And let that sit for a moment. If you don't have it perfect, it's okay. It doesn't need to be perfectly centered. A little variation with N scale terrain, you can easily, find a spot where it'll fit unless you're on a perfectly flat paved road. So, not too big of a deal there. Apparently my glue didn't dry. That's it for another moment. So while we're doing that, we do have the dump bed here. I'd recommend painting this black, especially if you're putting it in an up position. I'm just showing you how to build this at this point because, like I said, the swamp cooler wouldn't actually clear the top of the dump bed here, so we have updated the file. So the new prints will not have a swamp cooler, so the cab will clear. But for now, we're just going to work around it with what we got and do what we have. So I'm going to put it in the up position. Let's see if that's dry. Hey, it's holding on now. That is perfect. So one thing I like to do with these dump trucks, or the flatbeds if I'm putting them in the up position, is I really like to get the cab in place and all that together first. What that's going to do is that's going to give you your spacings needed and get everything right where it needs to be, and then you can work on the somewhat fragile dump body. So we're just going to slide the frame in to the cab piece and put a couple drops of glue in there to hold it in place. Blowing on it lightly sometimes helps dry it off a little better. In this case it did. And we're going to throw the bumper on again in the stock upward position. We're not going to run it like it's a drop bumper because these aren't highly customized trucks. They're just work trucks at the time, Little blow on that, and there's a bumper now, nice and simple. We do have our stack to do, which is going to go on the passenger side. So we're going to go over here. Did I mess one of those stacks up maybe? No, it's on the passenger side. Huh. There we go. That's why I was confused. Little drop of glue right there. Take your exhaust stack, put it into place. This is also one that's not going to clear perfectly fine, but you could trim it down or you could not use it. Dump trucks would have that trimmed down for the exhaust stack. They may have it in an S shape, or they would just have a exhaust dumping below the chassis, so you really wouldn't see the exhaust. But we're going to put it on here because we can, and you can customize that stack as you wish. It would sit right about there. So right above the cab is where that dump guard is going to sit. So if you want to trim it down, you can trim it down that far and call it good. or you could just do a little heat and bend and move it around as need be, whatever you want to do there, really. So we're going to put 2 fuel tanks on this one because, well, dump truck and idle time. And the fuel tanks do have a way to go. It's slightly offset, but you can see the fuel cap is slightly closer to one side. So that's the side we want to have as the top. It's not a whole lot of offset. If you do mess it up, I don't think anyone's going to notice. And I'm going to have to do this in a weird position to block your view. Or use tweezers. Okay, there we go. That one is on. That's how simple it is. Fuel tank is on. We'll give that a second to dry. And we'll flip it over and do the other one. Fuel tanks don't have anything to locate them. They're just going to have to go on. You're going to have to get them in place and make them somewhat straight, because the different kits will have them in different-ish areas. And I just put that in some glue, I guess. And because of that, you're not always going to sit in exactly the same spot from kit to kit, unfortunately. And there is customization options here. You can do things that fit your fleet. 1 fuel tank, 2 fuel tanks, no fuel tanks. You know, some other setup. And that was so close to staying. Okay, out of focus for a second. So there we go, we got a fuel tank on. We're going to let that dry for a second. And like I said, you can option your fuel tanks however you see fit. 1, 2, on some of the body trucks you can easily claim none, because it's in the upfitter body. So whatever you prefer there, we have those options to build these out differently. And as you can see, I offset this passenger side one backwards because of the exhaust there. So that's commonly how they are. This one would be a little shorter because of the exhaust, but if you mess them up, there's basically no difference between them. It's only a scale inch or two, which no one's going to tell, especially when the model's assembled. So next thing we got is our dump body and our dump body cylinder. So the dump body cylinder, if you take a look here, that square piece is actually on a slope. That square piece is going to go right up against the cab there, and that's going to be what holds the dump body up. So we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue on that and hold it in place until it dries. And that's going to hold the dump body in the up position. So there we go, a couple pieces of glue. If I don't touch it to everything else in the process. Key is to try to make it somewhat straight. So if you look dead straight down, you want it right in the middle, lined up with the drive shaft basically. And once that's glued in, we can go ahead and take our dump body, which has our pins on it. And if I had done the cutting right, it would hold itself up. Unfortunately, I completely butchered that, which seems to be a theme sometimes with me. So I'm going to show you a little trick for that one, is we can build it upside down. We're going to go ahead and put a couple drops here on the pins and line it up this way. Maybe. There we go. Can I get it? Nope. I might just have to hold it. Okay, there we go. That's somewhat attached. Now this cylinder should be dead center there on that body. If you have it close, it will bend a hair, and you just put a drop of glue on it. And blow on it a little. Get it to dry off. There you go. Put a drop of glue on it, and that is good. See how easy that is to assemble? And because of that bottom pivot, and you can cut this cylinder down to whatever length you want. You can have it a little bit up, you can have it the whole way up. This is the whole way up, but you could easily cut off 1 or 2 stages of that cylinder and make it slightly up. And if you're going to build it in the down position, just don't put the cylinder on. Now for the tailgate, there are 2 notches here. This is going to be super hard to do from the wrong angle. And you can see how that gate fits in the notches. So, yeah, take a look at that. The gate will fit in those notches, and if you're careful about it and position everything correctly, you may have to tweak the sides just a hair. You can get that tailgate to sit in the right position. And come in here and just tiny drop of glue. There and there. After we let that dry, we'll have a completed model. Okay, here is our completed flatbed and dump truck, both of them being posable. So you can build the flatbed with the flatbed dumping just like this dump truck is. Now why is that? Well, sometimes you deliver lumber on a flatbed and it dumps off. We do have the upgraded wheels on one side of this. They don't fit perfect, but I'm aware of that. That was mostly just for testing purposes. So that is more like what your model you would receive will look like. But they are highly customizable, as you can see. Very easy to build, and you know, superposable. So one thing to remember, I just want to reiterate it again, the dump truck here, if you buy one, you will receive it without a swamp cooler on it. So when you build this, make sure the cab without the AC unit on the roof is going to be the one that goes with the dump truck. Earlier in this video I said they're interchangeable. They will not be now. So just so you're aware of that, and I have been clear. But there you go. That is how you build Vicehead Resinworks 55 Kenworth dump and flatbed kit.